Have you ever sat in silence, staring at your phone, waiting for a message that never comes, only to feel that aching absence tighten around your chest like a knot no hand can untie? It's strange, isn't it? How easily we give our worth away. How often we mistake someone else's attention for proof that we matter. But what if I told you this? The moment you stop needing to be remembered is the moment you become unforgettable. This video isn't about tricks. It's not about ghosting someone to manipulate their emotions. And it's definitely not about playing games. No, what we're about to explore goes deeper. It's about reclaiming something most of us were never taught how to protect, our inner gravity. See, the Stoics, those ancient minds who faced war, exile, heartbreak, and power, understood something we often forget in this noisy, anxious world, that true attraction, real connection, and lasting respect, they don't come from begging to be seen. They come from living in alignment with who you are. Quietly, unapologetically, unshakably. We chase people, moments, validation, believing that if someone misses us, it means we're valuable. But the truth is, the more you chase being missed, the easier you're to forget. Because neediness isn't magnetic. Presence is. So today, we're going to walk a different path, the Stoic path. We'll uncover 8 powerful shifts in the way you think, act, and simply exist. Each one rooted in timeless wisdom. Each one pulling you further away from desperation and closer to presence. By the end of this journey, you won't just know how to make someone miss you. You'll know how to walk through life in such a way that your absence echoes louder than most people's presence. If you're ready for that kind of transformation, I invite you to like this video as a quiet affirmation to yourself. I'm done chasing. I'm ready to stand. Subscribe to this channel, Stoic Now, if your soul is hungry for more than surface-level motivation. And if something in this message speaks to you, drop a comment. Share your own journey. Because this space isn't just about content. It's about connection. Now take a breath with me. Let's step into the first shift, not with urgency, but with intention. Not to be remembered, but to become unforgettable. Number 1, the solitude that shines. There is something magnetic about a person who finds peace in their own company. A kind of quiet glow, not loud or showy, but undeniable. You see it in the way they walk into a room, not to impress, not to compete, but simply to be. Fully, authentically, and without apology. We often confuse being alone with being forgotten. But solitude, when embraced with wisdom, doesn't make you disappear, it makes you stand out. Because in a world desperate for noise, the one who is comfortable in silence becomes unforgettable. The Stoics believed in the virtue of self-sufficiency, not as a rejection of others, but as a return to the self. Marcus Aurelius, the philosopher-emperor who carried an empire on his shoulders, once wrote, "Nowhere can man find a quieter or more untroubled retreat than in his own soul." He didn't say this as a man disconnected from love or duty, but as one who understood that our deepest power begins within. To become someone who is missed, not for your absence, but for the peace your presence brings, you must first become whole when no one is watching. You must learn to fill your own cup so fully that you no longer sip from someone else's attention to feel quenched. This doesn't mean shutting down your heart. It means strengthening its roots. Picture this, a man who walks the park alone, not because he's isolated, but because he enjoys the breeze on his face and the weightlessness of thoughts uninterrupted. A woman who reads in a cafe, sipping coffee slowly, smiling not at a screen, but at the moment. These aren't people waiting to be noticed. They are people who already notice themselves. And that, ironically, is what draws others to them. When you know how to enjoy your own company, you stop chasing validation. You stop contorting yourself to fit into someone else's story. You start living your own, and those who pass by will feel it, even if they can't explain why they remember you. Solitude allows you to hear yourself clearly. It teaches you what you love, what you value, what you stand for when no one is clapping or watching. And the more you return to that sacred space, the more powerful you become. Because the man or woman who doesn't need attention becomes the one who attracts it naturally. So if you truly want to be missed, start here. Not by withdrawing from the world, but by rooting deeper into yourself. Learn to be enough, alone. Fill your own space with presence, not performance. And when you do, others will begin to sense that rare, powerful truth. You don't need them to feel complete, which is exactly why they'll long for your return when you're gone. Let's move now to the next step in this transformation, a step that invites you to rise, not to be seen, but to become radiant in your own pursuit. Number 2, the flame of purpose. Purpose doesn't knock. It burns quietly at first, like a candle in the dark corner of the soul, barely flickering, yet persistent. And those who tend to that flame, who nurture it, who guard it, begin to radiate something unmistakable: direction. It's not ambition that makes someone unforgettable. It's not noise or visibility. It's the silent gravity of a person walking with intention. While others scatter themselves trying to be seen, the one with a mission moves through life with a different rhythm. Slower, perhaps, but rooted. Focused. Epictetus taught, first say to yourself what you would be, and then do what you have to do. No drama. No waiting for permission. Just clarity and the quiet discipline to follow through. When your life revolves around something larger than being wanted, you stop depending on the attention of others to feel alive. You build, you learn, you rise, not for applause, but for alignment. And in that alignment, you become a force. Think of the man sculpting his craft in silence. The woman who pours her mornings into writing before the world stirs. The quiet architect of discipline who shows up every single day, not for likes, but for legacy. That's who we remember. Not because they begged for space in our lives, but because their presence taught us something about our own. When you live in the direction of your purpose, your energy changes. You become less reactive, less needy, more magnetic. You don't need to prove your worth. It speaks through your actions, through your stillness, through the way you carry yourself even when no one is looking. People begin to notice, not the volume of your voice, but the weight of your presence. They feel your absence not because you made them dependent, but because your clarity reminded them of what they've forgotten in themselves. To be missed, live like you're on a mission. Fill your time with meaning. Let your mornings be sacred, your efforts consistent, your days anchored in something no one else can take from you. The world doesn't remember the ones who shouted the loudest. It remembers the ones who walked with fire. Purpose will set you apart, not because it's trendy, but because it's rare. And rare things echo longer in the mind. Now let's turn inward again, not into motion, but into emotion, and discover how self-control in moments of tension can draw others to you with a force no words could ever match. Number 3. Echoes beyond the noise. A single sentence, spoken with presence, can linger longer than 1,000 hollow messages. In a world addicted to instant replies, endless notifications, and the illusion of constant connection, deep presence becomes rare. And what is rare becomes unforgettable. Most people think staying visible means staying relevant. They confuse quantity with quality. But the Stoics, masters of silence and substance, knew otherwise. Seneca wrote, "Speech devoted to truth should be plain and unadorned." What he meant was this: depth doesn't need decoration, meaning doesn't need repetition, and connection doesn't need to be constant to be lasting. So when we speak, not just with our words, but with our attention, we build something sacred. When we listen, not to reply, but to understand, we plant seeds that grow even in our absence. Imagine a conversation so honest it makes time pause. A moment where two people truly see each other, not because they talk often, but because they talk with weight. That's what leaves a mark. Not emojis, not double texts, but sincerity. Here's the paradox. The more often you speak just to fill silence, the easier you are to forget. But when your presence is full, so full that your silence still carries energy, you become the voice someone hears even when you're gone. To speak deeply, you must live deeply. And to live deeply, you must value your time and attention like precious currency. Give it not out of habit, but out of alignment. Share not everything, but what matters. When you reach that level of self-respect, your words change shape. They carry intention. They carry strength. And so does your absence. The people who chase attention are often forgotten the quickest. But the ones who communicate with care, who share parts of themselves like sacred offerings rather than performances, those are the ones we remember. Those are the ones we miss. Let your words be few, but rich. Let your conversations hold soul, not surface. Let the people in your life feel the difference between a response and a reflection, because in that difference is where you become unforgettable. Next, we'll explore the power of emotional stillness, the ability to stay grounded even when the winds of uncertainty try to shake you. That calm, that restraint, may just be the most magnetic force of all. Number 4, the stillness that speaks. Not every silence is absence. Sometimes it's the loudest thing in the room. A person who doesn't react, who stays calm when others spiral, who doesn't explain themselves in haste, who doesn't rush to defend their worth carries a power most will never touch. That stillness, that pause, that breath between impulse and response, it speaks of mastery. We live in a world that confuses reaction with strength, where the loudest voice wins the room and the fastest reply feels like dominance. But the Stoics knew otherwise. They taught that true strength lies in control not of others, but of the self. Marcus Aurelius once wrote, "You have power over your mind, not outside events." Realize this. and you will find strength. And that realization, it changes everything. When someone provokes you with silence, when they delay their response, when they test your emotions, you are not obligated to perform. You are not less valuable for choosing to wait, to reflect, to observe rather than chase. In fact, your restraint becomes your aura. It becomes the reason they can't forget you. People remember the ones they couldn't shake, the ones who didn't flinch under pressure, the ones who, instead of reacting, responded with composure or sometimes not at all. Imagine this, a message left unread, not out of cruelty, but out of clarity. A comment ignored, not because you don't care, but because you care too deeply to engage in chaos. That kind of silence is magnetic. It forces others to reflect. It holds a mirror to their noise, and they'll hear the echo of your stillness far louder than the sound of your words. Self-control doesn't mean shutting down your heart. It means guarding your energy. It means knowing when to step back, not to punish, but to protect the peace you've worked too hard to build. And when you master that, you become unforgettable, not because you made someone feel wanted, but because you made them feel something they didn't expect: reverence. In every moment of tension, you are given a choice: collapse into the old patterns or rise into your higher self. And when you rise, slowly, calmly, fully aware, you radiate a kind of strength that lingers. So if you want to leave a mark, don't try harder. Breathe deeper. Speak less. Respond slower. The one who can stay grounded in the face of confusion, who doesn't chase, doesn't explain, doesn't prove, that is the one who is remembered long after they leave the room. And now, let's open the door to something most avoid, but which carries perhaps the greatest pull of all: the subtle magic of distance and the unexpected desire born from absence. Number 5. The magnetic gap. Sometimes, it's the space you leave, not the words you say, that calls someone back to you. Not every absence is abandonment. Some are invitations. Invitations to feel, to wonder, to remember. We often fear distance in relationships, as if silence automatically means slipping away. But the wise know that absence, when intentional, is not a weapon, it's a whisper. And whispers, when felt rather than forced, tend to echo far longer than shouts. The Stoics were not afraid of space. They understood the rhythm of life, the tides of closeness and solitude. Seneca once said, "It is not that we have a short time to live, but that we waste much of it. And we waste most of it, not in solitude, but in unnecessary pursuit, in trying to stay visible, in clinging when we should be releasing." To be missed deeply, you must first be willing to go missing for a moment, for a season, for the sake of your own integrity. This isn't about playing games or faking detachment. It's about giving people the opportunity to feel the contrast between your presence and your absence. To know, through their own realization, what your energy added to their life. Think of fire. When you're too close, it's warm, but easy to take for granted. When it's gone, you notice the cold. You remember the light, and you seek it, not because it demanded your attention, but because you now understand what it gave you. So step back, not in punishment, but in poise. Create space, not to manipulate, but to allow truth to surface. When you're always available, always explaining, always trying to prove your worth, you lose the very essence that made your presence powerful. You dilute your mystery. You silence the question, where did they go? But when you withdraw with intention, still whole, still grounded, you create something magnetic, the curiosity of someone realizing they miss what they never had to fight for until now. This is not a strategy. It's a standard. Your time is sacred. Your presence is not a commodity. Let others earn your return, not with desperation, but with resonance. Let your absence become the echo of value, not the mark of retreat. Because the truth is, people chase not what's always in front of them, but what once made them feel alive, and then was gone. Let your silence be that kind of echo. Let your absence be the proof that your presence once mattered. And when you return, if you choose to, let it be as someone who never needed to be missed, only remembered. Number 6. Grace in the goodbye. The way we exit says more about us than the way we enter. Anyone can show up with charm and intent, but it takes strength and character to leave with dignity, to walk away without slamming the door, to love fully, then release freely. That's a rare kind of beauty most never master, and it's exactly why those who do are never forgotten. Endings don't always mean finality. Sometimes there's simply a pause in the music, a comma in the story. And yet, how we handle those quiet conclusions often determines whether our memory lingers like a soft echo or fades like background noise. The Stoics were clear on this. Epictetus reminded us, don't seek for everything to happen as you wish it would, but rather wish that everything happens as it actually will, then your life will flow well. That's not resignation, It's release. It's the inner wisdom to know when holding on no longer serves the soul. To leave gracefully means to release the need for closure, for control, for one last word. It means letting the silence speak for itself. It means choosing poise over pride. And in doing so, you leave behind something unforgettable, not the pain of your absence, but the nobility of your presence, even in parting. Picture this, a conversation that doesn't end with accusations, but with honesty. A goodbye that isn't cold, but clear. A final moment where you don't try to be remembered. You simply are, because you were real the whole way through. When you end something with respect, you remind the other person of your depth, not just as a lover, friend, or presence, but as a soul. And that kind of impression can't be replaced. Most people react when hurt. They lash out, withdraw, make noise. But the one who leaves without chaos, who still holds space for peace even after parting, who says, "I meant what I gave, and I give you back your freedom with grace," that is the one who is remembered not with regret, but reverence. It's not about being the one who got away. It's about being the one who walked away without losing themselves. So if you must go, go with strength. Go with love still in your heart. Go with the kind of calm that makes people think they didn't just leave, they elevated the moment. Because when the goodbye is noble, the memory becomes sacred. And that memory, over time, does what no message, no touch, no plea ever could. It keeps you alive in the quiet corners of someone else's heart. Number 7, the freedom in letting go. No force is more magnetic than a soul that doesn't cling. Not because it doesn't care, but because it has come home to itself. The deepest pull we can ever feel towards someone isn't rooted in need, control, or urgency. It's born from their freedom, from the way they walk through the world whole, untethered by the desire to be validated, unconcerned with approval, yet full of warmth and life. They are at ease in their own skin, and that ease draws others in. Marcus Aurelius said, "Very little is needed to make a happy life. It is all within yourself." That kind of contentment, earned, not bought, becomes a quiet glow that outshines every attempt to impress. When you no longer try to be remembered, you start to be unforgettable. Letting go doesn't mean closing your heart. It means trusting that you are already enough, with or without their recognition, that your value isn't increased by someone missing you, and your beauty isn't defined by someone else's memory. This kind of freedom isn't passive, it's powerful. It's the stillness of someone who has been broken before and learned not just how to rebuild, but how to remain rooted even when the winds of attachment blow strong. Think of someone who no longer checks who watched their story, who doesn't rewrite their words to be more likable, who doesn't wait for the next reply to feel seen. That person carries a rare kind of peace, a peace that doesn't need to shout to be felt, a peace that turns absence into art. We're drawn to those who no longer try to possess us because they remind us of the parts of ourselves we've forgotten, the parts that long for freedom, not fusion, the parts that want to be chosen, not chased. And in that paradox lies your quiet power. When you let go, you create space, not emptiness, but openness. An energetic vacuum not of desperation, but of presence. And presence is what people remember, not noise, not effort, but essence. The person who walks away without bitterness, who smiles without pretending, who loves without controlling, that person becomes unforgettable, not because they tried, but because they didn't need to. So if you want to be missed, let go. Not as a strategy, but as a state of being. Let them come to you, not because you demanded it, but because you showed them what it feels like to be near someone who is whole, kind, and completely unhooked from their response. Freedom, after all, is not the absence of love, it's the absence of fear within love. Number 8, why trying too hard makes you forgettable. The most unforgettable people aren't the ones who tried to be remembered. They're the ones who lived so fully, so honestly, so completely in their truth, that forgetting them became impossible. It's a strange truth, almost too subtle for words. The more you chase being missed, the more you slip from memory. But the moment you surrender, when you stop performing, stop proving, stop pushing, that's when your presence takes root in the heart of another. The Stoics never taught us to suppress desire. They taught us to purify it, to strip away what is rooted in fear, attachment, and ego, and to return to the quiet flame of essence. Epictetus wrote, "Freedom is the only worthy goal in life. It is won by disregarding things that lie beyond our control. And perhaps nothing is more outside our control than how we're remembered. To live from the desire to be missed is to build your life on shifting sands. But to live from presence, raw, unmasked, still, is to plant seeds that blossom long after you've gone. You don't have to try so hard. You don't have to broadcast your value. Your absence doesn't need to echo through effort. It will echo through essence. Think of those rare souls who didn't force connection, who didn't flood your inbox, who didn't seek attention. And yet, months later, years even, something reminds you of them. A scent, a phrase, a moment. And suddenly they're there again, not because they clawed for space in your life, but because they left a trace of soul. That's the paradox. Trying to be unforgettable often makes you disposable. But choosing peace, depth, and authenticity without needing to be seen makes you timeless. Let your life speak for itself. Let your calm be the reminder. Let your absence become not an empty space, but a quiet echo of meaning. When you no longer seek to be chased, you become the one who is sought. When you stop trying to impress, you become impressive. When you stop needing to be remembered, your presence finally makes its mark. So breathe. Drop the weight of trying. Let yourself exist, not for approval, not for longing, but for the simple, sacred joy of being real. The people who are meant to find you will feel it. The ones meant to miss you will. And when they do, it won't be because you tried. It will be because you didn't have to. Maybe you've been waiting for the message that never came, the call that never rang, the recognition that always felt just out of reach. Maybe, somewhere deep down, you've wondered if being forgotten means you were never enough. But let me offer you this. You were never left behind. You were becoming. While others looked outward, you turned inward. While the world shouted for attention, you listened for truth. While some sought validation, you chose to build value within. And what you've built on this journey, brick by quiet brick, isn't just a path to being remembered. It's a return to something far more powerful, the truth of who you are when no one is watching. You've seen now that the most magnetic force in this world is not effort, it's essence. Not noise, but stillness. Not the desperation to be missed, but the freedom to be whole. And that freedom? It's unforgettable. When you live aligned with your values, when you speak with care, when you release others with grace and carry yourself with quiet strength, you don't just pass through people's lives. You leave a mark. A gentle one, but deep. A memory that doesn't shout, but stays. Marcus Aurelius once reminded himself, waste no more time arguing what a good man should be. Be one. And that's what you've done. Through solitude, purpose, restraint, and truth. You've become the person who doesn't need to be missed to matter. Because the ones who remember you, they will do so not out of guilt or longing, but out of reverence. So don't chase presence in someone else's mind. Be fully present in your own life. Speak less, live more. Let your story unfold quietly, powerfully, with no need to be explained. And in that stillness, in that rare calm that you now carry, others will feel it. Some may miss you. Some may return. Others may not. But none of that defines you anymore. You define you. And that definition is now written in the language of freedom, of self-respect, and of peace. If this message found you in a moment of searching, I invite you to share your reflection in the comments. Your words might be the light someone else needs. If you found strength here, or even just stillness, subscribe to Stoic now. This space is for those who choose substance over performance, depth over display. And if your heart feels a little steadier now, give this video a like, not for numbers, but as a quiet affirmation, I've returned to myself. Until next time, stay grounded, stay real. And remember, the one who doesn't need to be remembered is often the one who's never forgotten.